The stock of the day is brought to you by IG, Australia's #1 CFD provider. Trade over 17,000 markets with extended trading hours on key US shares and competitive spreads, all on an award-winning platform. Get started at IG.com.
And the stock of the day is Santos, after it secured an LNG supply contract with Total Energies Gas and Power Asia. The contract is to supply 20 LNG cargoes per year for 3 years, beginning in the fourth quarter of 2025. Santos did not disclose the value of the deal. Checking in on how shares are tracking today, up by 3%. Although, gentlemen, Henry, Andrew, we're also dealing with oil prices in light of the Middle East conflict, which is clearly intensifying. Energy is the best performing sector today. So stock-specific thoughts on Santos, Henry?
Yeah, Santos, it has been, I would say, suboptimal. Let's face it, if you'd have said to me a year ago, before the Hamas terrorist attack on Israel, all of the events that have unfolded, culminating last night in that mass attack from Iran in terms of rockets launched. And then you'd said, so, okay, against that backdrop, what do you suspect the oil price would be? Now, about a year ago, it was $82. And here we are around $72, $73. So it's clearly not been responding to the threat and the increased tension in the Middle East. Santos, unfortunately, has been following that trajectory, if you like, in terms of the oil price, and really has struggled. It had that brief kind of run up when there was that talk of the Woodside merger, where Santos was widely seen as being the major beneficiary to Woodside's detrimentalness. That's not really a word, is it? Detriment. And it has bounced, I guess, off $6.75, which is a good thing, and the oil price has perked up a little bit. It's been doing a couple of these LNG deals. They did one with Glencore a couple of weeks ago. So that is helping sentiment. I think the biggest hindrance really at the moment for Santos may be its CEO, Kevin Gallagher, who's been around for an awful long time. And although he's done a relatively good job share price-wise, it's just been in a bit of a funk, let's face it. And I think it needs a bit of a kick up the bottom to get things moving. And this LNG helps, but it's and the oil price helps, of course. But I think it needs another catalyst, I guess, there. So it's not expensive, but it has been in the doldrums for some time. And I suspect it will bounce around with the oil price, but it is really more an LNG stock, I guess. Yeah. And without numbers being put around these contracts, it's hard to extrapolate what they really mean for Santos towards the bottom line.
And so would you buy, sell, or hold it today?
Well, I have to say, given the backdrop of what's happening in the Middle East, you'd have to be long some sort of exposure to the oil price at the moment, just as a bit of a hedge in case things do turn a little bit nasty. So I'd probably be a modest buyer here. Certainly wouldn't be selling it. It has got potential upside back up towards $8, but it would need an oil price to be substantially higher, I guess, to achieve that.
Andrew, your thoughts on Santos?
Yes, I'd love to start the show off with a buy, but I'm sorry, I'm going to be a hold because I'm just looking at the chart. The chart's incredibly snoozy. It's sort of range bound. It's one we prepared earlier, and it's just sitting around that sort of $7 mark. I note that the consensus valuation, to Henry's point just before, consensus 14 analysts who follow it's around $8 rather. So certainly there is some upside potential, but to Henry's point, what's the trigger? What's going to cause it to do something? If conflict in the Middle East isn't going to do it, and a rising oil price, what's going to do it? So our preference is for Woodside. We've been sort of accumulating those sub $25, and I think they're sort of getting closer to 26. So certainly in that energy space domestically, Woodside's probably our preferred option. If you have Santos, it's not a sell, but what's going to drive it? What's the trigger? So it's a hold.
There you go, a hold and a modest buy for stock of the day, Santos.
The stock of the day was brought to you by IG. Trade over 12,000 shares and ETFs, including major tech giants with extended hours on an award-winning platform. Get started at IG.com.